Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys DC 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at none other than the Batman Arkham Knight Batman Beyond suit. No, this is not that Batman Beyond. It's not Terry McGinnis in the futuristic suit. This is Bruce Wayne's version. It's a little bit more militaristic and a lot more armored up. I know a lot of people were hoping for that Arkham City version, and I was too. It's a lot more faithful to what we saw on screen in the cartoon, but nevertheless, I'm all for weird and wacky designs for Batman, and this one is definitely both of those things. Now, I picked up mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is, of course, down in the description below. He's in stock and ready to ship right now. They do also have 12-month installment plans if you're a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as brand new content goes live on the channel. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. And here of course we have the box art for Batman Beyond. Just like the version of Batman that you see before you, the box art has the very same color scheme. And I really like it. The red and black does have a very ominous effect, and I like how it ties across to the suit itself. I don't, however, like the overly blurry image of Batman on the front of the box. Not exactly sure why they went with that one. Now on the back you do have yet another image of Batman. It's not the figure though, that is a render from the game, and of course if you flip it open you do get some cast and crew as well as an image of Gotham City from the game, and an image of the clock tower on the side. Now I actually have seen this figure in person a couple of times, and I've been pretty darn impressed each and every single one of them. He's a very interesting design for Batman, because it's from Arkham Knight and they really lent into the more military style panelled armoured up look for Batman. That carries across to the Beyond suit as well, although it still retains a couple of the classic elements. And here we have him. I honestly couldn't be more excited to have this guy in hand. First impressions are, yeah, he feels like a hefty, beefy boy, and I'm pleased to report that this material shouldn't have any creasing issues whatsoever. More on that a little bit later in the video. Now as you can see, he does come with a few accessories as well as an additional tray on top. So what we are going to do now is get all of the accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. And here we have all of the bits and pieces that come with Batman Beyond. And as you can see, this guy is jam-packed with a bunch of awesome stuff. Let's start off by taking a look at the display base first. I really like how this looks. It's a very simple Batman Beyond style glossy red logo with some tech detail in the background. Of course, on the front, Batman and Batman Beyond printed there as well. Now you can see it does have a receptacle for this, a dynamic flight pole, because of course this version of Batman is known to take flight, therefore you can use this to have him doing so. Now in conjunction with that pole, you also get the cape. This is made out of the same style material as the bodysuit. It's a very thin nylon feeling material, and there are wires through the spines, so you can of course pose this billowing in the wind. However, you can't pivot these sections down and have it displayed in a downward facing manner. You can only have it splayed out to the sides. 9 times out of 10, I'm sure people would love to do that. I personally would have liked the option to sort of pivot them down because we're not going super accurate to the source material anyway. Now let's take a look at one of the hands. This is an incredibly well detailed sculpt. You can see a strap that goes over the palm and another one that goes on the back, plus a bunch of armor and really awesome metallic paint applications. These hands might just be some of the most detailed hands I've ever seen on a Batman figure. Now this is, or most of this stuff, are reused accessories from the Arkham Knight and Arkham City Batman. This is of course one of them. It's the grappling gun. Now you can remove the little clip on the end there that has the prongs. Now this is of course the grappling point, but you can remove that entire section and switch it out for an alternate one. Say you want a different hook entirely. Now, of course, you can simply just swap the hooks. It's quite modular, and I really like how that works. Of course, Batman would have all of these gadgets that you can chop and change in the game. Now, if you want to change it to the electrical gun, you can do that as well. And the paint applications look stunning. It's got dry brushing over the top, has a very metallic look. I'm pretty sure in the previous versions I complained about them looking a little bit too cartoonish. I think they've fixed that up ever so slightly with this Batman Beyond figure. Now, you do get the cryo grenade. I like the blue on the inside, but I wouldn't have minded a little bit more feathering around the edges just to make it look like it's glowing, like it does in the game. Plus, you get some weathering around the outside to give it that nice metallic look. You do also get this piece, and I'm pretty sure this is that sort of vocoder thing that you use to mimic people's voices and then trick people into going where you want them to go. It's an interesting device. I'm fairly sure there's supposed to be a screen readout on the back, but nevertheless, it's a really nicely sculpted and painted little addition here. Now, you do also get this piece, which is absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, it doesn't fold away, so when you see that hinge there, don't try and fold it, but it is painted and sculpted very, very nicely. I do like the little translucent section on the top there, as well as the teeny tiny little bullets with the yellow stripe on the front. This is a really awesome accessory. Now, you do also get the Batman Beyond Batarang. This isn't the first time we've seen this. This is identical to the one that came with the Futura Night Batman. And yes, you will be seeing a comparison to him later on in the video. The red is a little bit more faded. I would have personally loved a very punchy, vibrant red, just like we got on the base. However, this is a super classic design for a Batarang from Batman Beyond, and I'm glad we get it here. Unfortunately, we only get one, but we do get two of the Arkham-style Batarangs. I personally would have swapped out these in favor of more of these ones. We do get two of these. They don't fold up, they don't have any readouts on the middle section, but we've seen these a bunch of times before. It's the same design as all of the other Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight Batman figures, and I'm perfectly happy with how it looks. However, I still would have preferred another Beyond-style Batarang. You do also get this piece, the explosive gel device. I like how this is done as well with the little gel canister on top. It is painted a little bit more simplistically compared to this. As you can see, a lot more dry brushing, a lot more realism, whereas this one is a little bit more of a flat cartoony style paint job. I think that's what I was complaining about in the previous Batman Hot Toys Arkham reviews. You do also get the line launcher. This has a unique feature in that you can actually rotate these out, and you do get a couple of lines to go with your line launcher. These are made out of metal, they're real metal wires, and you simply plug them in to the end there. They won't really be strong enough to hold up your entire Batman, mind you, but I'm glad that you get that, so if you want to have him in your Detolf, and these pieces up here sort of strung up to the top of those metal rails to make it look like it's working, you can definitely do that. Now, the final pieces that he does come with are interchangeable mouth plates. You get this one, which is simply a black mouth plate and a little bit of tech detail around the bottom. Some people might be thinking, Justin, isn't that a little bit weird? Well, in the show Batman Beyond, his entire mask was a black covering, including the mouth, so this is technically kind of accurate to the show. And for this one, it's the mouth plate that goes over the top. You can see there is skin tone on the back. That's because the mouth is an actual skin tone piece. This is the more realistic version of Batman Beyond, just like we saw with the Prime 1 statue. I personally will probably be going with the all-black one, just because I'm more of a fan of the show. This one is rather tempting as well. You can definitely see a mouth sculpted behind this smoky black piece on the front there. This is definitely COVID safe. What we are going to do now, though, is get Batman himself out here and take a closer look. And here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And I have to say, this might just be one of the coolest Batman figures that I've had in the Lightbox for a while. And I know that's not hard to say because there haven't been many released, But still, the design on this guy is incredibly unique and it translates perfectly to figure format. I can't emphasize enough how much I'm in love with this guy in figure form. I was really tempted to pick up the Prime 1 version of this guy and have the statue because I didn't think Hot Toys were ever going to make this. But now that they did, I pretty much have a shrunk down version of the Prime 1 statue that can move and articulate and has accessories and interchangeable mouth plates. I'm really impressed with this guy in hand, and I apologize for gushing, but when you get him, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And honestly, it gets even better from here. More on that in just a second. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. And here we have him up close and personal, and I have to say pretty much every square inch of this guy is covered in immaculate detail. The armor, the undersuit itself, and even the head sculpt is painted and sculpted superbly. Now, we may as well start off by talking about the head sculpt. For some reason, I'm getting Arnold Schwarzenegger vibes from that mouth plate. I don't know if that's anyone else or just me, but I can definitely see the governor there. It's a very interesting sculpt. However, it's not supposed to be Terry McGinnis, it's supposed to be Bruce Wayne from Arkham Knight, and that's kind of exactly what he looked like in the game, on the normal suit as well as with this one. I love the way the paint applications are different between the various different panels, and of course, those red, piercing eyes. The head sculpt looks menacing. Now don't worry, you will see the interchangeable mouth plate a little bit later in the video, but just know it's super easy to switch out. Now in terms of the chest armor, it's again chock full of detail. There's weathering, there's chipping, and you can see there are multiple different finishes. There's a glossy black, there's a gunmetal, there's also these inner ribbing type sections, and then underneath all of that, there's this really intricate undersuit. There are also multiple different layers of fabric on there. There's this striped section, and this really weird neoprene sort of rubbery but also material feeling. I don't even know what this is. It's kind of like what you'd expect to see on a puffer jacket, but it is shrunk down to 1/6 scale, so it's super thin, and that should mean you shouldn't get any creasing whatsoever because it's not actually rubber. It just mimics the appearance of a pleathery, rubbery style look, but as far as I can tell, all of this is fabric, and that is a good thing. Now on to the arms. These things mean business, especially down here at the blades. I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up, but there's a very subtle blue feathering on the tips here towards the front. Really like how that looks. It's a nice breakup with all of the grey and black and red. Just having a subtle hint of blue on the gauntlets there is a really awesome little feature. You can also see in the elbows that same material is present, so fingers crossed, this guy is one you can actually finally pose and not have to worry about damaging the suit. Now, talking about the belt, this doesn't stand out as much as you usually see on a Batman suit. Usually these are a yellow or gold. This one is clearly there. It's still a separate piece, but it's more integrated into the suit with a big honkin' red belt buckle. I'm pretty sure in the game that actually lit up, and so too did his eyes, although in figure format it doesn't do that, and I'm perfectly fine with that being the case. Now around the back you can see all of the pouches do continue to this central point where all of the harnesses are connected up. Now you may be wondering, while we're looking at the back, how on earth do you attach that cape? Well, you simply remove this section and it plugs in on the back. Don't worry, just like the mouthplate, you will see the cape attached to the figure later on in the video. Now coming down to the pants, there is even more amazing detail here, all the way down to a subtle bit of this glossy metallic blue on the knee pads there. I really like how that looks as well. It's very subtle where they've chosen to use that blue, but it definitely helps highlight the high spots on the suit. I don't exactly know if that's accurate to the game, It's been a while since I've played Arkham Knight, but I really like how it looks in figure format. Now coming down to the boots, these are actually supremely well sculpted. They kind of look like running shoes, they even have a tread on the bottom, people like to see that, and you can see a little bit more of that metallic blue on the front, where of course Batman would be kicking some serious butt. You can also see a little bit of this sort of hex style texture on the underside there. And of course, it's my favourite, a split cut boot design, so you are getting maximum range of motion on the ankles. Now of course, for a moment, I do want to talk about the overall design, because it is very futuristic and military style. There are a lot of patches and pouches and little capsules, and also a bunch of armor pads here and there. This looks kind of nothing like the Batman Beyond suit from the TV series. It was literally a skin-tight black suit, and the face was actually covered entirely in black as well, with white eyes, not red. However, I do like the artistic direction they have gone here with this suit. It is completely different, and I really like that. But you'll have to let me know what you think of this suit down in the comments below. Now to kick off the side-by-side comparisons, we of course had to start with Hot Toys' kind of first attempt at a Batman Beyond suit, and that's the Futura Knight version of the Arkham Knight suit. Yes, I know, it's a mouthful, but basically what they did was they took the Arkham Knight design, they thought, hey, why don't we just color it red and black? And that's exactly what they did. And for the longest time, this was kind of the quasi-Batman Beyond suit in a lot of people's collections. Until now, and I'm glad to say that I personally prefer the actual Arkham Knight Batman Beyond suit. In my opinion, it's the best look for Batman Beyond that I personally have seen in figure format. Bit of a cop-out because it's the only one in figure format in 1/6 scale, but nevertheless, it looks really cool, and I love the design translated into real life. It makes for an awesome figure. Which do I prefer out of all of the suits, though? Oh, it's really hard to say. This one is definitely up there, maybe top 3 Batman suits that Hot Toys have ever made, but I personally probably still will have to go with one of the Batfleck suits. If I had to pick between the Arkham line, this one though definitely takes the cake. Now, I quickly wanted to do this because I know a lot of people were wondering how the Futura Knight head sculpt would look like on Batman Beyond, and vice versa. Number one, the neck pegs aren't compatible, so you will have to do some modding and swapping here and there. These are literally just resting on the top of the necks, they're not connected to any pegs. But I have to say, I'm liking the way the Futura head sculpt looks on Batman Beyond here. It's got a cleaner aesthetic with less armor around the chin, and I think it complements the suit perfectly. It almost looks even more comic book, or I should say, animation accurate, whereas the Futura Knight with this head sculpt, yeah, it works, however, I still think I prefer the combo of the Futura head sculpt on Batman Beyond. Next up, for an eerily similar comparison, here we have the regular Arkham Knight suit, still one of my personal favourite figures from an aesthetic standpoint, and he definitely wins out for me on that level because it's a really intricate, well-designed Batsuit. However, as an all-rounder, the Batman Beyond, he simply wins out. You can pose him. That's a huge factor. You can pose the original as well, and my buddy Owen Choi from 6 Scale Poses has proved that. He's got some amazing posing pics. Definitely go and check out 6 Scale Poses on Facebook. But this guy, the new guy, the Batman Beyond suit, you can pose him pretty much to your heart's content without having to worry about any creasing. And I know it's a little bit ridiculous that I keep harping on about it, but it's a really big deal, and I'm sure that Hot Toys, when they were making these decisions, knew that. Hey, we've kind of made a bunch of 1/6 scale statues up until this point for the Arkham line, let's give them something that they can actually have fun with. And it's a darn shame that this guy hasn't sold as well as I personally was hoping it was going to, because Hot Toys needs to get the message. What they did here is really good, and I personally hope they keep it going for future releases. And finally, I don't really know why I brought out Deathstroke, but I wanted to. He's awesome, how could I not? Honestly, this really does work. I know it's supposed to be from Arkham Origins, but he was in Arkham Knight as well, so if you want to have these two fighting on your shelf, you can definitely do that. And from the waist down, Deathstroke is entirely fabric as well, so you can technically go a little bit crazy with the posing, not nearly as much as the Beyond figure, but still, you can have these two duking it out on the shelf. You can see a bit of a size difference between the two. I like the fact that Batman is a little bit bigger than Slade here. Makes him even more imposing, especially in this entirely noir black themed suit with the big honkin' red bat logo. He looks really impressive. Just going over articulation on Batman Beyond. Now bear in mind, this is my personal copy of Batman Beyond, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt itself, it is on a fixed neck. However, as you can see, still affords a really darn decent range of motion, both forward, back, and you do get a swivel and pivot side to side. The arms themselves fairly unhindered going up. That's really impressive considering there is a floating shoulder pad there, and then fairly unhindered going forward as well. You do have a butterfly joint incorporated and a swivel at the bicep. Now there is a double bend at the elbow, however there are two pieces of armor that do collide, so you will get a little bit over 90, and of course a regular Hot Toy style wrist peg for the hand itself. Now the torso is surprisingly nimble because yes, as you can see, there is a hidden cut there. That is absolutely ingenious. So going back, swiveling, and pivoting, you do get a little bit of motion, where otherwise I would have expected this to be a completely fixed, solid piece. That's really impressive hidden engineering. Now for the hips, they go forward to about there. They go out to about there. You can of course swivel, and these are on stretchy style pieces of elastic, so they do nicely move out of the way. Moving down to the knees, you do get a pretty darn decent double bend, and of course you do have a regular split cut boot design ankle for the foot itself. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things about Batman Beyond. The first annoying thing isn't the included cape. I actually really like it. I like the material it's made out of, I like the attachment method, and I like the wires. The one thing that I don't like, however, is that the interior isn't red. That's kind of one of the hallmarks, one of the staples for Batman Beyond. Now I know, in the game, it wasn't red either, so it would technically be inaccurate. So I don't know if I've got more of a beef with Hot Toys for not just going all out and making this red anyway, or the game designers for not being as faithful to the design of Batman Beyond. The second annoying thing, and by no means is it a massive issue, but it's the size of the hands. Do his hands not look slightly too big and out of proportion to you? To me, they definitely do, although you can post-rationalize that by saying, well, he's wearing big honkin' gloves and they are covered in armor. But still, to me personally, they look slightly too big. The third annoying thing are the gauntlet spikes. Usually Hot Toys gets these really nice and sharp, so sharp in fact that I have to issue the prick warning in case you do happen to spike your fingers. These, however, are severely rounded off. Feels a little bit inauthentic to the character of Batman to have these be a little bit more child-friendly. The first cool thing about Batman Beyond is the hidden joint here in the middle between the top and the bottom of these pads, so you can get a little bit more articulation. That is completely genius. I love that they've engineered that in there. Otherwise, you really wouldn't have noticed it. It looks nice and seamless and crisp, but as soon as you go to turn him or bend him backwards, it reveals itself. That is Hot Toys' genius design at work. The second cool thing, and of course I had to mention it, it's the material choice for the undersuit. This is just perfect. I couldn't think of a way Hot Toys could do this any better. Usually we get these in an overly pleathery, rubberized style format, but it's not the case here. They've gone with this super silky parachute nylon style fabric. I struggled to decide on what to describe it as earlier, and I landed on puffer jacket material, and it, kind of feels that way. It's got this poofy nature about it, and hopefully it won't crease over time at all. It's literally fabric, it's super lightweight, and that means it gets out of the way of the joints. However, because it's so lightweight, it means it is rather thin, so you do still have to be careful not to pinch it in the joints and tear it. But if I have to choose between creasing and potentially damaging a rubber suit and simply moving the fabric out of the way of the joints so it doesn't get pinched in there, I personally know which one of those two I'd rather have on my figure. The third cool thing is how easy it is to install the cape. You literally remove this one panel, then bring in the cape. There are 2 port sections that you plug on the back. Honestly, I still would have probably preferred this to be a magnetic attachment. However, I understand why they didn't do it. Those 2 pegs are holding a massive spine here, with the cape attached over the top. And of course, when you have it installed, I personally really like the way this looks. Just wrapping up on the Arkham Knight Batman Beyond suit. Now going into this, I was already super excited to be taking a look at this figure. I loved the design already, even though I was a little bit cautious just because it was overly stylized. It wasn't the Batman Beyond that I grew up with that I was a huge fan of. However, now seeing it in person, I'm even more excited to add this guy to the shelf because of the unique design that I've now fallen in love with. Plus the fact that I can pose him in any of the poses that you're seeing in front of you right here and not have to worry whatsoever about creasing, about damage to the suit, because it's all fabric. I can't overstate enough how much of an important factor that is. Nowadays, Hot Toys is using padded fat suits and rubber bodysuits on pretty much everything, so to see something made entirely out of fabric with engineering decisions made to have cuts and creases in various sections to allow even more range of motion, it's just genius. I'm over the moon with this piece. Let's be honest, taking a look at this guy in front of you, what is there to be mad about? He's pretty much a perfect copy of this character design from the game, translated into 1/6 scale articulated art, and I love it. Honestly, the complaints I do have, I can even forget about because I'm impressed with how well Hot Toys have made this thing in real life plastic and fabric. Call me a fanboy, whatever, I don't care, he really is that darn good. Now I picked up mine from toyswonderland.com, link for that is of course in the description down below. They do have 12-month installment plans if you're a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.